I will know more in the near future as we talk with the school some more. Right now, some of the holdup is the nature working. Their timeline, that project, that was supposed to be done over the summer. It's been pushed back. Now they're saying September, which is probably going to cause a conflict with the school. But it's the way things are sometimes. So once that starts, we would expect to see some more movement. I will tell you, I'm still in favor of selling the central school property. I've been in favor of selling the central school property since 2018. I never thought it was a good plan for the township to accept that property and trade. For the property we had, I wasn't on the board, it was done. The board before me thought that was the right thing to do. I'm not going to badmouth them for doing it. It's everybody's entitled to their opinion. No other township in this county supplies and maintains soccer fields for its youth. That should be handled by CYSL. Same thing with, the Champion Athletic. That's school property. That should be handled, by the athletic. That's something I've never understood about Champion Township is how these programs are dumped into the lap of the township and paid for by the township and the schools, which is still your tax dollars doing both those programs. So we are spending your tax dollars for soccer, for Little League baseball, and you might not have kids to play soccer. You might not have kids in Little League. I question the legality of it. I don't know. But I think it probably needs to come to an end. I've had conversations with several people within the township recently. The property out front here is a much better fit for this township than the property owners. So, we'll continue working on this. I don't know.
Go back to a couple of my concerns, and I'm trying to be careful here not to shoot myself in the foot because I'm very grateful that the township allows me to use that property. So we own the trucks over there. I always park on the side of the building there, and I'm grateful for that because we are out of room where we're at. But it still comes down to where is that money coming from? If we're pulling it out of the general fund, it's a large sum of money.
It is.
I mean, it will, what's the balance of the general fund?
It will tighten us up.
We'll tighten it up, but it's still.
We're going to be tight for a year and a half to 2 years.
We're gonna be tight all around.
But are we considering the fact that all these, the crazy politics that are going on, the amount of taxes that we're going to lose,
It's a concern. It's a concern. And here's the thing is that we don't think with the property out front that what we're paying for that property that we can lose a penny on it. So, worst case scenario, if we had to sell the property, we won't lose money on it. But yeah, that's a huge concern. It's, all of it's a concern. As we sit here and talk about buying a street sweeper, or police cruisers, or, the fire department, they want to order a new tanker. It's $1 million. They are looking and thinking that on the rotation of the ambulances, in the time frame to order that equipment and get it, like the tanker's a 3-year project. So if we order it today, it's 3 years before we get it. So as we sit on our side of the fence and we look at what's going on in the state, and we are going to order $1 million truck, things are good for that today. I don't know what's going to happen with the taxes. So if that stops tomorrow, now what are you going to do? And I said that to Tom Dempsey the other day. We signed kind of the same position as Vienna was in. Things were great right up to the point that they weren't.
They're good until they're not. So is there any intention of selling a portion of this property?
Up front here?
Or the township purchasing it, or right here?
Yeah.
Is there any thoughts of the township purchasing it and selling a portion of it off?
No. what I'm saying is if taxes, something goes drastically wrong, we can sell that property back out and get out from under it and not lose any money. It's not what we think we want to do. With the developments that have been proposed to the township, the desire to move a fire station to the north has kind of diminished greatly, because that would locate, another, 1,200 houses, 1,200 doors total, in those three projects, all south. So, moving north probably isn't the deal to do. Other people complain that, so we've talked about buying this property for the future. Fire department, as anyone knows, if you step out the back door of the fire station, you're on the church property. So we have no room to grow in that fire station. And as more development takes place in the township, one of those developments is actually targeted for 55 and over. How many doors on that one? 144 doors, 55 and over, so the ambulance is going to be pretty familiar with that area. We don't have room for another ambulance. We don't have room to do anything else. So if we have to put more equipment in that station, we're in trouble. So this property, when the conversation started about it, seemed to be a better fit. So when we started evaluating and talking and looking, that seemed to be a better place to do it. Everyone says, it's stupid to put it right on Mahoning Avenue, how are they going to get out? They have lights and sirens, they're going to get out. ODOT may allow a traffic light, I don't really know, we're not that deep into it yet, but the problem is if we don't buy that property now, we're not going to buy that property. So does that put us in an uncomfortable position to buy that property? I would say yes, it does. It does. So when we sit here and we look at that and you're kind of, when we're telling people we need to slow down a little bit, we need to, that's getting pushed back for 6 months. That's not going to happen this year. It's what we have to do, because if we don't, that property is going to be sold. If somebody put a for sale sign on that property today, it would sell in 48 hours. And I think everybody that knows anything about that would agree. I think the property across the street has been sold now. Is that the case? Is that property sold next to Katie's Corner now? Not completed? So there's action. There's a lot going on. So that's just where we're at. My opinion still states so that you're 100% correct. We're sitting on a piece of property we don't need.
Let me end my concern with this. Is it not in the township's best interest to at least entertain the idea of an exit ramp?
I can't hear you either.
I'm sorry. When that's off, you can hear me.
Yeah.
Is it not in the township's best interest to entertain the idea of a safe exit ramp to not take money from the general fund and consider trading a portion of that school property in exchange for that property so that there's no money laid out? Not all of that property, but a portion of that property of equal value, so that the township gets the property that they should have here, gets rid of a portion of a piece of property that is an expense, and doesn't deplete the general fund. I don't know what the three of you think, but I can speak for the fiscal officer.
I think the three of us agree with it. I don't, the conversations that this board has had, I don't think any of the three of us are interested in retaining the property.
I'm on.
I like what you're saying. We had one meeting and this place was packed, and I thought we were going to get hung if we even talked about selling that property. But they wanted, and I don't know how to get around that. We could. There was talk maybe put it up for a public bid, which is but there was a lot of discussion. There were a lot of angry people in here that did not want us to touch that property at all. And that's kind of where we haven't really discussed it since then. That meeting was pretty nasty. but I don't see any value. I see your value in that property.
Yeah, there's,
And I think if I
there's value
sold
to
it, I
several
want to see
people,
you have it.
piece of property. However, the township's not one of them.
This isn't all about me, though, this is about.
No, it's not about you.
Yeah, this is about the money here and where it's coming from and how it's gonna get replaced, so I'm happy to sit down again and try to put something together of equal value to where they can, maybe everybody's happy if we retain the bulk of that. I've said from the start, and I put it in writing, and you're all aware of this, that I'm not pushing soccer out, I'm not pushing anybody out. I don't want the back of that property, I really don't. I just want some fun.
I think probably the biggest problem when you're sitting on this side of the table is that the soccer program is a huge problem for us. You know, I said it before, I'll say it again. When I come by there and see Sean's guys over there mowing the grass so that these kids can play soccer, don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against kids. And I think the soccer program is a great thing for the community, I really do. And I believe that the Champion Athletic Club, and that is a great program for our youth as well. I think we have some good things here for the youth of this township. However, those programs need to be paid for, need to be self-supporting by themselves. You know, when I go to other communities, those programs are supported by their boosters and by their leagues, and, you know, maybe it costs $300 for a kid to play soccer in Austin town. It costs $3 for them to play in Champion, and we try to make that work. I've always been a firm believer in the fact that if your kid wants to be in something, you have to support your child. That was a decision you made when you decided to have a family and have kids. Kids wanted to be in band, that's your responsibility to pay for your child to be in band, not mine necessarily. You know, I was in ski club. There was no funding for ski club from anybody other than my parents. They paid my way. That's the way that was. So I've never understood Champion Township in the way that this works here. It's different. Everybody expects that. And you know, and the township's given that. Not just the township, but the school district's done the same. And, you know, it's an issue. And that's truthfully what has slowed us down on the central school property is this soccer deal. We have to get a target and we have to start the movement on soccer in order to protect ourselves from being lynched, because it was that bad.
It was that bad.
It really was.
But if soccer is the issue, if it's not a future park or whatever.
A lot of people were saying about having a park there. I don't know the fellow's name that was there.
I don't know, was it a lot of people or was it a couple?
Alan Patrick,
Yeah.
We had a packed house.
Patsy Naples were furious because we were talking about not putting a park on that piece of property. And I don't know, guys, I'm not some kind of real estate mogul or anything, but when I drive by that piece of property, I get zero beauty out of that piece of property. If I'm gonna go take my family somewhere for an outdoor picnic, I wanna at least go someplace that has something to offer. That piece of property for a park offers nothing. Well, we can put a walking path around it. To look at what? The bus garage?
Yeah.
The back of people's houses where they have their trailers parked in their sheds, the backs of their sheds, and all the stuff that they don't want people to see from the front of their house that they got stashed out back. That's what we're gonna look at when we're walking on the Champion Township path. Does this make sense to anybody? Because it doesn't to me, and it never did. So we're gonna put a gazebo out in the middle of that field. And then what? I was up there a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday or on a Friday morning. You probably are aware of this. And they drove cars out on the soccer fields and ran over the outhouses. Did donuts in the yard out there on the soccer fields and stuff. This is what? I mean, really? So no, I just don't, you know, the school wants to expand their bus garage. They want more. They want to build a new building there and more space for buses. So if you're at the north end of that on the walking path, you can say, well, Champion's got 21 buses now, look at it. Well, it smells like somebody spilled diesel fuel out here when they were fueling the bus. You know, I mean, what are we, I don't understand. I could not get through my head what the people were so upset about because we weren't turning that into a park. You gotta drive through Fowler, who has a gazebo out front, been there for years. I've never seen anybody at the gazebo. I go through Southington. Every year Southington has a celebration, there's people at the gazebo. The rest of the year, nothing, crickets out there. So do I, everyone thinks, I don't know why you guys don't build a pavilion, put a gazebo in and do this and do that. Well, trying to, our sites are a little further away than that. We have a little bit better vision. If we're gonna do a park, that we probably should do something decent, right? That's not the place for it. You know, and then people wanna bring their kids, and they turn their back, and their kids right out along 45, and next thing you know, kids running out there because we parked the car over at the church across the street, so we'll go see the other kid play soccer, and one kid runs across the street and gets hit by a car. What are we doing? It's not even a good location for soccer as far as I'm concerned. But that's all Doug's opinion. Apparently my opinions aren't right because the crowd that was in here wanted to slash my throat for saying the things that I'm saying again right now. So I don't know, but something's gonna have to give. And I've said it before. If we're gonna have the property up by the high school that was bought originally by prior boards to establish a park and do these things on it, then that's the direction we need to go. If we're not going to do that, then we need to sell that property and leave everything alone at the central property. If we're going to move forward on the property up by the high school, then there's no need to keep the central property anymore. Something's gotta go. You're right, 100% correct. Something's gotta go. We just gotta get all the pieces of the puzzle fit together to start the movement again. And, you know, I don't have the answers to what order that has to happen or what we need to do. We had meetings, we've talked this thing, oh my gosh, to death. And we're back here 3 months later and we've made no progress. We've been talking about this for years. And we're still sitting in the very same spot that we were. We've made no progress, no forward progress on it at all. It's embarrassing, but you know, it gets so heated and such a mess that you back off from it, and you're just like, let this thing cool off for a minute. And then we'll try to go back in, and you step back in again, and you get burned a couple times, and you're like, I'm backing out of this again. And then it finally cools off enough, and you're like, I don't even want to visit this thing again, because it's just gonna turn into another disaster.
Doug, we elected you to make decisions for this.
What's that?
We elected you to make decisions for this township.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So move forward. Whether you sell me that property or not is irrelevant. Whether you buy this property or not, that's important. And it's important how you.
Right now, this board feels that this property out front is probably the most important thing for us to do today. Now, does that mean that we're gonna have money to do anything on that piece of property tomorrow? It absolutely means that we are not going to have money to do anything out there. We were putting some money back for an electronic message board, and so I know she's appropriated some money back for things like that, so we can get our messages and our events and our things out in front of the residents, and we still think that's a very important tool that we need. When we start going down that road to put a sign up, however, you know what the first problem was? Where are we gonna put the sign? So we thought, well, maybe they'll let us put it out here, and they would have, but the problem was that there's no access to, believe it or not, no access to electricity out here. So it was gonna cost, how much, Jerry, to get power for the electronic sign over there? It was,
About 30,000.
it was expensive because we had,
Probably the one that pulls up there.
because we had to move it clear down to the property line, put it right there, because if we put it over here, then ruin the property for him to sell because of now our sign's right in the middle of everything. So buying the property fixes that, but however, it slows down the message board for another year and a half because, well, we got a place to put the sign now, but now we don't have the money to buy the sign. So yeah, it's gonna put us in a bad spot for a minute for sure. But you're right. You're right. We need to move. We need to figure it out. We need to get it done. So I don't know how, what, when, or where, but it has to happen. Yeah.
Hi, I have a Debbie Chris, 400 Water. I just have a couple questions. To Lori Jo. Lori Jo, when you, and I know the police need the cruisers and all that, but I didn't hear from you as to the financials of that transaction. How do you feel about that? And are you okay with it?
I'm okay with it, but in general, we're spending a lot of money and it makes me nervous. Spending any money makes me nervous. There was money set aside in the appropriation for capital, and the money's there. But again, police, we need a renewal in the fall. I don't know if the renewal is going to go through. If the renewal doesn't go through, then we're going to be right back to where we were before. So I'm not thrilled about spending more money because I think we're a little tight. We're going to be a little tight in police, but that money was appropriated in the budget and it's below what was appropriated. So I think we're okay to do it. It makes sense. But I think in general, I'm just getting a little nervous because of all the, we've got fire departments, talking about $1 million fire trucks and we're talking about properties. So in general, I'm just a conservative person that worries about stuff like that.
Okay,
but yes, we can do it.
Thank you. The next question.
I checked with her first.
Do we own the property?
No. We do not.
Did you put in a bid or an
Yes.
offer?
Yes, there's an agreed upon price at this moment.
Okay.
There
Can we ask what that is?
There has been no, to buy that property, we're gonna need a formal resolution. So there has been no resolution. What we have done at this point on that property out front is we have talked to the property owner, have agreed upon a price. We made a motion to take the next step, which is, there was some replotting that needed to be done. There were some other things that needed to happen. Those things are starting to happen, they're working through. So probably at the next meeting, I would suspect, sometime soon, we will need a formal resolution to buy the property. We don't have that at this time.
Do you have a price?
We do have a price.
Can you announce it or?
Cannot because it's still
It's
an
still
uncompleted
negotiation.
contract, yes.
Okay. One other, in 1994, they had pay to play, just so you know, because my son had to pay to play football here. So pay to play is not unheard of in Champion, okay? And we have, and in fact, we had a 10-0 season that year. So we had, and it hasn't happened since then, so maybe we need to go back to pay to play. Just saying. Another thing, the property on Mahoney, because Mahoney, I think that when the hospital starts, I think it's just going to be a matter of time before they add a hospital to it, some floors and some patient area. This is going to boom. This is going to boom. I do believe that. I think more, people are going to come in with businesses and what have you. Mahoney Avenue is very important.
That's kind of.
It is our mainstream. I mean, when you go in and out of here, you have a ton. What I would like to see as a resident, if you are not going to continue to keep that as a park or a soccer or whatever you're going to do, I want to see that to go to sale. I want it appraised.
Yeah,
I want a professional real estate who does commercial real estate to sell that.
You're talking about the property at the school?
Yep.
Okay.
That's all been done.
Well, no, but I want to see that for sale
There's the
though.
appraisal.
Like a for sale sign.
The appraisals were done and everything.
When was
So
the appraisals done?
I understand what you're saying.
I want a recent appraisal, like a new appraisal.
Well,
You got copies of the appraisals that we had done last,
I
couple
have.
months ago.
But I think we
Okay.
need.
Did you see the
Because
prices?
of the situation happening here locally.
The appraisal, the last appraisal we had is only 8 to 10 months old or something. It's not.
I have everything,
So-
and I'm very concerned with
Yeah.
it, to be honest, as a citizen and as a taxpayer. I think we need to get the most money we can for that property, because that is a gold mine. You could have people come in and want to put in a small plaza, something that's going to bring a lot of business to this area, and I think we need to give them a chance to do that.
We tried to
Taking
get,
away that chance, it has never had a for sale sign on it as long as I've been here for 40-some years. It has never had a for sale sign on it. Never.
What has it?
That property.
Oh,
I want to see a for sale sign by a reputable commercial real estate agent, because they have access not only to this area, but to Pittsburgh, to Cleveland, to everybody. You need to get the most money you can for this township. That should be your goal,
of course.
because it's the taxpayers who take the hit. And if we need a new fire truck, or we need a new fire station, you know, it's only common sense that you're going to sell good property for a good price. That's just common sense.
I don't think you're gonna see a plaza there because it's not zoned for it.
You don't know.
We tried to get it zoned commercial and it got turned down.
Well, it has to be zoned commercial because there's commercial there.
Zoned residential.
It's not.
Well, then we can get it rezoned.
So that's-
We're gonna rezone
We
it
tried to
all.
rezone it.
We did try that once.
We tried to rezone it.
I still think it has to be put for sale.
Well, yeah.
And that's where you're gonna have a problem. If
So
you-
a lot of that property is residential, so we as property owners, the Board of Trustees requested a zone change to commercial, and the zoning board turned us down.
Well,
Along with the Trumbull County Planning Commission's recommendation to the zoning board not to make it.
okay, when was that?
A month ago.
No,
2
it's not
months
been
ago.
That's about 4 months ago.
Is that long? Time flies when you're having fun.
But I want to see it for sale.
So,
And I want to see the
when
house.
we get to that point that we have figured out the direction that we need to go, then yes, we'll make those decisions, everything will, there's nothing going to be done behind closed doors.
Okay, that, and I
That's what
appreciate
you're
that.
concerned about, that will not happen.
Appreciate that. One more thing. I think the park thing came about with Bill Templeton, if I'm correct. Am I correct, Sean? And he had it mapped out where it was beautiful, okay? And when you weren't looking at somebody's smells and all that other stuff. I mean, he had it mapped out where it was a walking path, where they had benches, he had it mapped out beautifully, okay? So to, I don't know, denigrate what he had planned
I've never seen
and
that.
what his vision was is not accurate.
Yeah.
It was not accurate.
I've never
And
seen
I
it.
think, Sean, I think he spoke to you about it,